Hi, Sarah Rodewald here. I'm your local Boston agent, and I'm continuing on talking about how to sell your home. So we'll probably do four of these, and this is the second. This is part two of how to sell your home or how to get your home ready to sell. So last time we talked about value and how to figure out what your home is worth, and all that goes into that. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the condition and how we can determine if you need to make upgrades or anything like that, or you do renovations, or what those kinds of things, which I know can be super overwhelming because your goal as a seller is to really do the least amount to the home because you don't want to invest in the home because you're not necessarily going to be living there, so you're not going to be able to enjoy the upgrades that you're making. So you ideally want to spend the least amount of money to get the home ready, and not necessarily like cheap out, but it doesn't make sense to spend a whole lot of money that isn't necessarily going to give you a return on the investment. So we're going to talk about that, and how to kind of figure out some of those things. So when we're talking about condition, a lot of times I'll be talking to a seller and they're like, oh, it was a renovated kitchen, and then I get in there and it was renovated in like 2000. Now if you're thinking like a seller that wants to get the most for your home, oftentimes it can be helpful to think like a buyer. So if a buyer is going to come through a home and really take a look at what you have and say, I want that or I don't want that. If you were a buyer and you walk into a home and someone says, oh, it's renovated, and the it's like that old white tile that you had in the 2000s. Maybe you have like a accent wall and, whatever. I mean, think about, walking into a home where it has like a pink bathroom or, some wallpaper that's coming off. Yeah, no, that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about renovated. We're not talking about like the last like 20 years, that kind of thing, or even sometimes the last 10 years. We're really talking about mostly within the last few years, and maybe at most 5. It really depends on how much those renovations are in line with what people want today. Typically, it's going to be anywhere from 5, 4, 3, years ago that we're looking at. Ideally, for a brand new home, for it to be considered brand new and completely renovated, it has to be just finished and nobody's lived in it, or in the same year, practically brand new. So that is brand new. And oftentimes I'll have a seller who's just like, no, it's renovated. No, I'm sorry to tell you, because I know you spent a lot of money on this, but you're not going to get the kind of return that you were hoping for on this. Now the good news about that is it's not necessarily a bad thing that you kept up, taking care of your home. That is great. That people love that. It means, you really, there's probably great bones, and there's some, small things that we can do to, really bring the value up. So condition over time, really, there's a difference between what we, in design, where we're talking about fads and trends. So a fad is something that's, it happens really quick, maybe within the last 5 years, and a trend is something that, will last typically 10 years, up to 10 years. So a good example of a trend is, white, modern, minimalist. That's been a trend for a while, and, we see it all over the place. And now they've started to kind of shift towards white with accents, like maybe blue accents or, different things like that. And another trend that people have are the the stainless steel. That's been around for a while. So stainless steel appliances, that definitely is a trend. A fad, a good example would be the open cabinets. Where you can see everything in the cabinets. You just have the cabinets, you don't have the doors on there, or maybe glass doors. Where you can see completely through it. That's a fad. A lot of people get it and then they realize, I don't want to stare at all my stuff that maybe isn't organized all the time and exactly perfect. It looks great when you get it done, but it's not super functional. So a lot of times that goes away really fast. Another fad that, is pretty recent is track lighting. It looks pretty outdated when you see it, so that's a good, a couple good examples of a fad versus a trend. So we want to try to stay away from fads and, stick with the trends. And oftentimes, when we're talking about condition, we're looking at the major things that people would do to renovate. Hardwood floors, painting, the kitchen's newer, the bathrooms are newer, maybe it has like new appliances, a lot of the stuff that has to do with, like, let's see, what would be, like the outdoors, the outside is painted, or, you don't have peeling paint, or a lot of, walk in the home and there's just like stuff that doesn't work. So think about it like this. Okay, if someone comes into your house and they go to use, I don't know, like say the microwave, and they go to, push the microwave button, like the 30 seconds, and it doesn't work. And you're like, oh, actually, in order to use that, you have to like push this button and then push that button and then push start. And it doesn't work as if it were a new microwave, then it's broken. You cannot count that as functional just because you put up with it because you didn't want to replace it. But if you were to buy a place and the thing doesn't work as it should all the time, then it's non-functional. So you can't consider, oh, the dishwasher works if you only use it on this particular setting, or whatever. So that kind of stuff, if you can apply that to your house, and like, you're not just like, oh, well, the hot water doesn't work in this, in this bathroom, but it still works. No, if it doesn't work the way it's meant to work, like the way it was installed, then it doesn't work. So that condition would be considered, non-functional. So, I mean, the nice thing is, if it's something like that, you can get it fixed, and, clearly all those little things, those little bits and pieces, that kind of stuff will go really far if you can take care of that and not necessarily have those little things coming up. Anything that you can really see when someone goes through the house, in terms of condition, like just imagine the house was vacant and, you just want it to look fresh. The best things you can do, refinish the floor, paint. If anything else, just paint, like fabulous. And, in terms of renovation, again, we kind of talked about the timeline of renovation and, what you're going to get in terms of return on investment. Just so you know, you're never going to get 100% of your money back in terms of a renovation. It just doesn't work that way. It does not. You'll put in, say a new kitchen, and you might get back like 80% of what you put into it. But overall, with the rest of, what you put in the house, and depending on the market and things like that, that may be the thing that helps you sell it faster and sell for more money. So those kinds of things, oftentimes sellers don't realize. Just because you put in a whole new brand new kitchen, or spent like $100,000 on a kitchen, doesn't mean that you're going to get more money out of it. So those kinds of questions sometimes are good to look at in terms of the long term, what your goals are, and what's happening in the market. Sometimes it might make more sense to just replace like the countertops and the sink in the kitchen, and that could do a whole lot more, save you a lot more money, but make the kitchen more functional and more beautiful, and add a dishwasher or something like that, and you leave the old cabinets, so you don't have to pay for brand new cabinets, and it still pays, has the return on investment that you really were looking for. Those kinds of things are a little more nuanced, but happy to talk about it, happy to go through what I see, trends and fads out there, and the best way to really get your house ready, and to make sure you get the best value when you're either A, going for an appraisal, maybe you're doing a refinance, or B, you're getting ready to sell. So even if we have to go through and literally like room by room, and I can tell you what I think and what my opinion is, and probably what like what it's going to take to really get your house seller ready, that kind of stuff, we can deal with. All right, so that's it for today. I know some of that's a little vague, but happy to go into detail. I can always have a contractor come in. Oh, and the last thing I'll just say, I wanted to tell you this: the most return on investment is going to be in your kitchen and your bathroom. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a whole lot. Sometimes I'll tell people, you know, if you have really nice old tile, 'cause sometimes the way people did tile before was so beautiful, and we don't do it like that anymore. We have these like big strips. You know, it might make sense to just paint that with like a tile paint, and it's completely functional, looks beautiful, looks brand new. So that kind of thing. I'll go through, I'll give you my opinion, and you know, we can figure out what you need to spend or don't, you know, so we can save you money and also make you the most money. So SarahRoadwaldRealty.com, you can find me there, or you can subscribe and like. You can send me a message. Happy to answer any questions, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.